Hello everyone, it's Mariners Fanatic, and today I'll be talking about how I became a Mariners fan, the story behind the fandom, why I created this channel as well, and just the inspiration and what grew me to love the game and love this team. It's going to be a video that goes on a lot of different points, so bear with me, but we're going to get through it, and after this video you'll hopefully know a little bit more about me and why I love the Mariners so much. So the first point I want to talk about is I was born in the late 90s, grew up in the early 2000s era of baseball. I don't really remember the 2001 team very well, or the 2002 or 2003 teams. The first game I remember going to was against the Montreal Expos, and I think it was in 2003. The Expos were no longer a team by 2005, so it was either in 2003 or 2004 is what I remember being my first game, and I don't remember the outcome. I just remember that game. I just remember it. That was kind of my first memory of going to a Mariners game. And then after that, what kind of started to grow my love for baseball. Obviously, I started playing t-ball and little league and whatnot, but I also started reading the newspaper. Now that may be surprising, as in this digital age, nobody reads the newspaper anymore. But every morning I would look at the box score. During the summer, I would look at the box score, see how the Mariners players did, see if we won or lost, analyzing stats. That's why I love stats so much. And I would read that every single day. I also listened to the radio, another thing you might not expect. And I think this is why a lot of people are Mariners fans. I grew up in an era where Dave Niehaus was still alive, and even though most of my memories of the Mariners, they weren't amazing in those 2000s years, Dave Niehaus was still there, and he was amazing. He is what caused a lot of fans to love the Mariners so much. His voice on the radio is incredible. Rick Rizzs was also great. Some of the other announcers are okay as well, but Dave Niehaus was where it was at. And I loved listening to the radio. We didn't have cable growing up. I recently just got Root Sports this last year, even. So I've listened to Mariners games on the radio since forever. Reading stories in the newspaper and listening to the games on the radios were kind of the first jumping off point for me. In combination with that, I started playing baseball a lot. Been playing since T-ball when I was like 4 or 5, and I played up until the end of college here this past year for me. And I grew up playing baseball, just loved baseball. You latch on to a team. Since I lived in the Northwest, I latched on to the Mariners, and they had a few good years here and there. Unfortunately, they haven't been to the playoffs, as you all know, since 2001. But in 2002 and 2003, they were good. 2004 they fell off a cliff, and then 2007 was a good year, 2009 was a good year, and then 14 and 16 and 18. And that's kind of what keeps Mariners fans going, I think, is there's always some level of hope. We've never, except for probably from 2010 to 2013, I would say, the Mariners were never like complete garbage. Obviously you didn't make the playoffs. We weren't good, but besides that 2010 to 2013 stretch, we weren't absolute garbage like some other teams absolutely tank. The Tigers with one of the worst records the last couple years, and also at some point during the early 2000s, the Tigers also had close to one of the worst records in baseball. So there are other teams out there that are small market that just absolutely tank. But the Mariners have never really done that. And part of that is fault of management, not going through a full rebuild and hoping for the best. But there was also, just there was always hope, and it was a blessing and a curse. There was hope that we would do well and we would be close, and then we wouldn't, and then we'd suck. And it's a little bit of a cycle for these past 20 years or so. But that's one of my points is there was always hope as a Mariners fan. Obviously, going to Mariners games was another huge reason why I was a Mariners fan. One year, my mom was able to get a season ticket package from one of her coworkers, and I ended up going to 15 games that year, which was the most I'd ever gone to in a single season. I saw Felix Hernandez defeat Yu Darvish 7-0 in 2012. This was the year I went to all those games. I saw Felix's perfect game, which was amazing. Probably one of the best days, best experiences in my life. and I'll forever remember that moment. I still have my perfect game ticket and the newspaper, and I put that in a frame and stuff. And Mariners games are really special. During high school, my favorite history teacher, with a bunch of the guys from my class, we were all big Mariners fans. Went to the games together, one game a year, with our teacher and each other, and that was a really fun experience. So many great memories at Mariners games. Even when the teams were bad, we had a great experience. And that brings me to the next point is that Safeco Field, now T-Mobile Park, just an amazing stadium. It's beautiful. Even any seat in the ballpark is amazing, even the 300 level. And the center field bleachers, you can see the whole stadium. There are some stadiums out there that just are not good. And regardless of them initially having fences that were probably too deep, and that was one of the reasons why Ken Griffey Jr. left, which is unfortunate. The stadium is beautiful. The amenities, like the food, the atmosphere is great. The team store is awesome. The seats are pretty decent. There's not a bad seat in the ballpark, in my opinion. And I think it's easily a top 10 stadium in the major leagues. Well, I love Safeco, now T-Mobile Park. Lots of great memories there. Kind of along the lines of memories, but there were just a lot of fun games that I went to. But also Ichiro. I grew up while Ichiro was still in his prime. Unfortunately, things didn't go Felix or Ichiro's way with making the playoffs, but we've always had a superstar in Seattle, and that's kind of what has kept the fandom going, and that's really important. And even though, some years are worse than others, we always had Felix or we always had Ichiro. And that's why these past couple years have been a little different, with Felix moving on, but Kyle Lewis breaking out and the potentiality of Jared Kelenic and Julio Rodriguez and other stars to come up, an exciting future. There's no reason to stop being a Mariners fan, especially right now with Kyle Lewis, Jared Kelenic, like I just mentioned, coming up soon. This team is really exciting. The pitching is getting better. Marco Gonzalez is amazing. We've got a lot of pitching prospects coming up, but I've talked about that in other videos a little bit, so I won't get too much into that. But we just have a really exciting future. And so if you're not a Mariners fan and you're looking for a team, now's the time. Jump on the wagon before the other bandwagoners get on, and then you can claim, hey, I wasn't a bandwagoner. I got on with this team when they were still not doing super great. So I'm looking forward to these next few years of baseball. So going back past, I am very unfamiliar with the 1970s and 80s Mariners, extremely unfamiliar with it. However, I am very familiar with 90s baseball. My brother was born in 95, an amazing season. I literally, not ashamed to say this, but I tear up or get the chills every time I listen to Dave Niehaus call Edgar Martinez's double that scored Griffey to beat the Yankees. I have watched that series back just because, and I wasn't even alive. That 90s era of baseball was just so exciting, and it's fun to look back at that. It's unfortunate they never won a World Series out of it, but it was an exciting time. Edgar Martinez, Ken Griffey Jr., Jay Buhner, Randy Johnson, Dan Wilson. There's so many great players in that era. And honestly, for me, even though the 2001 team was statistically and record-wise better, the 90s teams for me are more exciting. Because honestly, besides Ichiro, the 2001 team was not made up of really the household names necessarily. Great players, Brett Boone, Freddie Garcia, still a lot of great players, Mike Cameron, but that 90s squad, Griffey, Buhner, like all those names I just said, it was just a fun group. I wish I could have been alive to watch that group because it was really exciting. I'm just really excited for this future, anyways, as I already previously mentioned. So, no matter how good or bad the team was, they've always had great players that you love to root for. Minus maybe Alex Rodriguez, but that's for another video another day. They've had great players, guys with great attitudes, people you rooted for. Even the guys that didn't pan out. I really liked Dustin Ackley. I thought he was going to be really good. It didn't work out, and that's unfortunate. Same thing with Mike Zunino. He was good at times, but just never really panned out. But overall, just a lot of lovable players, and kind of along with the lines of hope, there was always some hope with these players. Just a lot of great guys. I feel like other teams cannot hate the Mariners, regardless of how good they are, because they don't do anything controversial, really. Just a fun team. We haven't made the playoffs in 19 years now. Let's hope that we can cut that streak at 19 and not make it 20. Hoping for 2021 playoffs for the Mariners. I think they actually have a shot this year. Last year, I wasn't expecting it, and we came really close. So I'm hoping, I know that was a 60 game season, but I'm hoping that this year we can break the mold and sneak into the playoffs. I think, honestly, there is a potential shot at the division title if we can get things rolling and players play up to their potential. You know, talking about the hope that I had earlier in the video, there's always hope for Mariners fans, and a lot of the time it doesn't come to pass, and that's unfortunate, but I'm still going to hope, and I'm still going to be a Mariners fan. With that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, a little bit of context for why I'm a Mariners fan and why I decided to make this channel. I'm just really passionate about this team and really passionate about baseball. And so I wanted to talk about it, and I hope you guys continue to enjoy these videos and keep following, subscribing, liking the video, commenting. I love to talk to you guys in the comments, so I'll try to keep getting better at making these videos for you guys. With that said, Mariners Fanatic.